Great, thank you. Well, good morning, everyone. I'm going to call to order the Transportation Agency of Monterey County Board of Directors meeting for Wednesday, September 28th, 2022. Could we please have a quorum check? And a roll
District
call.
1, Supervisor Alejo. District 1, Supervisor Alejo.
Here.
District 2, Supervisor Phillips. District 3, Supervisor Lopez. District 4, Supervisor Askew.
Alternate Yuri Anderson for Wendy Askew.
Thank you. District 5, Supervisor Adams.
Here.
City of Carmel by the Sea.
Yeah.
City of Delray Oaks. City of Gonzales. City of Greenfield.
Here.
City of King City.
Present.
City of Marina. City of Monterey.
Present.
City of Pacific Grove.
Here.
City of Salinas.
Here.
City of Sand City.
Here.
City of Seaside.
Here.
City of Soledad.
Here.
Ambag.
Here.
Caltrans District 5.
Present.
Monterey Bay Air Resource District. Monterey Regional Airport District. Monterey Salinas Transit. City of Watsonville. CSUMB.
Here.
Chair, we do have a quorum.
Thank you very much. And now if you'll all stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Great, and now moving forward, we will start with our public comments. Is there any member of the public who wishes to comment on anything that is not listed on today's agenda? And I'm not seeing any hands raised. Are you, Eloise?
I'm not seeing anyone.
That's
Thank
a
you.
negative, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Todd. Thank you, Eloise. Okay, so let's move right ahead and we'll go down to item number 3, which is our consent agenda. I hope you've had an opportunity to review the consent agenda. Is there anyone who would like to pull anything for comment or question from the consent agenda? Yes, I see Supervisor Phillips has his hand raised.
Yeah, I'm looking for my notes on the one that talks about looking at schools for the kids in North County. And what's our purpose and the grant funding that we're looking for? What's our goal on that one, Todd?
This is authorization to apply for a state planning grant, which is the same fund source we've used for safe route to school plans in other parts of the county, such as the one we're wrapping up in Salinas now, and we're currently doing South Salinas Valley. And it's each of the school sites in North County doing a site assessment and working with the parents and the teachers to develop a safety plan for the school and doing education for the students.
Yeah, because, you know, out here in North County, we're just different than every place else. And 98% of our kids get there by bus or by, unfortunately, by bus or the parents coming in. Every one of our locations, we have a, hold on a second. Every one of our locations, we have a big traffic jam in the morning and in the afternoon. But it's just, no one rides a bicycle out here because in these canyon roads, it's just not safe to let a kid ride their bicycle on these roads. And so we're going to have to look at other ways to deal with the situation. I mean, I would never let my kids ride a bike out here on these narrow canyon roads. It's just not safe. And most of the kids, you see a few kids walking from Castroville across the bridge to the high school, but no one's riding a bicycle. I just don't want to see us end up building a bicycle path like we did in on Fremont Street. They spend all this money on some crazy bicycle path that goes nowhere. So, but we do need some help. Every one of our school locations is just inundated with traffic at the time the kids are going to school.
Well, that is part of the planning process, and we treat each school individually and address their issues specifically. And there's a whole host of ways that can be approached. One, a good example is identifying places that parents can park in the neighborhood and walk short distances with their kids to get to school, and in that way lessen the immediate traffic at the school site, just as an example. So that's what the team will do. They'll assess opportunities at each school and teach safety and ways for the students to be safe when they do go to school.
Yeah, and that's a good point. And I know we looked at that. I had Public Works and everybody out at the Elkhorn School, for example, looking for a location where people could safely park rather than on the road like they're doing. And we couldn't come up with anything. So, but hopefully maybe you guys can do better than we did. So thanks for your help.
Mhm.
Thank you, Supervisor Phillips. And now I see we have Councilwoman Christina Medina Dirksen with her hand raised. Would you like to pull or make comments on an item?
I just have a question on an item.
All right, if you'd like to go ahead.
Thank you. It's item 3.2.2, having to do with the disability senior and disabled transportation program. It noted that in July there was a report about this. I just wanted to know which nonprofits were funded and what did they do. So it's not necessarily for pulling. I just don't recall what nonprofits received the funds and what did they do. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Todd, I don't know if that would be an easy comment response from the staff.
Aaron, do you have that list on handy that you can respond?
Yeah, let me just turn my camera real quick. Yeah, so the current grant recipients that receive funding for the Senior Disabled Transportation Program, there's 4 of them. That is starting with ITN Monterey or Monterey Country. Then we have Alliance on Aging. 3rd is Partnership for Children, and 4th is the Kearns Memorial Poll.
Thank you so much, Aaron.
Last really follow up on that one.
Okay.
Do any of those work with sight impaired people?
Yes, part of for the Senior Disabled Transportation Program is that we have grant recipients work with people, not just seniors, but with people with disabilities as well. So I believe all 4 one way or another do accommodate for sight impaired folks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Kerr has her hand raised.
Good morning. I'm zipping through the agenda and I've just lost the one I wanted. But it has to do with the FORTAG and purchasing of property. And I'm just wondering how much property we're considering and where those locations are.
That would be item 3.2.3, the Ford Regional Trail and Greenway right-of-way just compensation. And that is for an easement with Pacific Gas and Electric along their utility right-of-way along Plumas.
Thank you.
Thank you, Allison. Are there any other comments or questions from the board? Seeing no hands raised, I'll go out to the public and see if there's any member of the public who would like to ask a question or make a comment on the consent calendar. I'm seeing no one coming forward. And thank you.
Lopez.
Thank you. So we have a motion from Potter and another second from Lopez. Could we please have a roll call vote? Eloise.
District 1, Supervisor Alejo.
Aye.
District 2, Supervisor Phillips.
Aye.
District 3, Supervisor Lopez.
Aye.
District 4, Alternate Anderson.
Yes.
District 5, Supervisor Adams.
Aye.
City of Carmel by the Sea.
Aye.
City of Del Rey Oaks.
Yes.
City of Gonzales. City of Greenfield.
Yes.
City of King City.
Aye.
City of Marina.
Yes.
City of Monterey.
Yes.
City of Pacific Grove.
Aye.
City of Salinas.
Aye.
City of Sand City.
Yes.
City of Seaside.
Aye.
City of Soledad.
Aye.
Chair, the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. And now let's move forward with item number 4. And this is always a nice part of our meetings when we have the opportunity to present the employee of the quarter. And Todd will do this. And the employee of the quarter for this quarter is Alyssa Gunter. So Todd, take it away.
Thank you, Alyssa. If you can come on camera, wave and say hello. It is hereby certified that Alyssa Gunter, Assistant Transportation Planner, has been selected by her colleagues as the Transportation Agency for Monterey County as employee of the quarter for April 1st through June 30th, 2022. Agency employees recognize Alyssa for having a great attitude, for her professionalism, and for her hard work. Most notably, they appreciate her work on the Regional Transportation Plan, TAMC's legislative program, and the Local Access Fund program, and for assistance on the Safe Route to School website, social media, and Move It Monterey County Challenge. So on behalf of the board of directors and staff at the Transportation Agency for Monterey County, it's my great pleasure to recognize her as Alyssa for her excellent service.
Thank you so much and congratulations, Alyssa. Why don't we give her a round of applause?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Would you like to make a couple of comments?
Yes, well, I just wanted to say thank you, especially to my very supportive and dedicated colleagues. I feel very honored to be recognized by you all, and I've learned so much from everyone I've worked with and appreciate my time at TAMC so far. And I'm very excited to keep working and keep learning and improving.
Thank you. That's most gracious. Congratulations from all of us.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you again. And now moving forward, we will go to item number 5, which is to receive an update from the Caltrain Director of Strategy and Policy on the next steps for the operations discussions for the Salinas Rail Extension Program. And this will be presented by Christina Watson, and we're happy to have with us the Caltrain Director of Strategy and Policy, Sam Sargent. So welcome, and I'll turn it over to you.
Yes.
There we go.
Thank you, Chair Adams. Yes, Christina Watson, Director of Planning. And you already said everything I was going to say, which is just to thank Sam for coming to our board meeting this morning and presenting an update on the discussions related to developing a memorandum of understanding. And Sam has a presentation for us this morning. So thank you so much, Sam.
Thank you, Christina, and Chair, as well as Executive Director Muck. Let me share my screen real quick, and we will get underway with the update. So hopefully hopefully the board as well as members of the public can see my slides. So again, thank you very much for having me this morning. My name is Sam Sargent. I serve as Director of Strategy and Policy for Caltrain. I'm going to provide an update on some of the ongoing discussions that myself and my Caltrain colleagues have been having with TAMC Executive Director, as well as Christina, regarding the Salinas Rail extension. So I always like to start at sort of the 50,000 foot view. I know that for members of the board here, as well as many members of the public, this will be something that you already know far better than I do, but I like to start with a little bit of history, a little bit of context, and then we'll work our way quickly towards the latest and greatest updates. So Caltrain, just for those of you who have not had the opportunity to ride our service, has been the operator of the 159-year-old Peninsula commute service since 1992. Originally, the service was provided by the San Francisco and San Jose Railroad, followed by the Southern Pacific. The right-of-way between San Francisco and San Jose is owned outright by Caltrain. We do have a trackage right agreement with the Union Pacific, which provides some amount of freight service on our Caltrain-owned right-of-way. But then south of Tamian Station in San Jose, Union Pacific owns the right-of-way, and then we have a trackage agreement that allows for up to 5 trains, AM and PM peak. Currently, we are running 3 trains in the morning, 3 trains in the afternoon that go all the way up to San Francisco. Caltrain is governed by the Peninsula Corridor Joint Powers Board, which oversees our operation and the right-of-way that we own, and there is representation, 3 seats apiece, from the 3 counties that we currently serve: San Francisco, San Mateo, and Santa Clara. Right now, Caltrain is operating 104 trains per weekday, a little bit less on the weekends when we have local hourly service, but we do offer good weekend service. And in fact, we've seen the fastest ridership recovery on our Saturday and Sunday service days. But we have 104 trains per weekday, with most of those trips serving San Francisco to San Jose. South County is served, like I said, by 6 trains per weekday, and that goes to Capitol, Blossom Hill, Morgan Hill, San Martin, and Gilroy stations. Ridership is continuing to rebound across the corridor. We're at about 35% of pre-pandemic levels. I would just provide a little bit of context there, is that you will see, and you may be seeing this in Monterey County, that a lot of our more bus-heavy operators, which includes Samtrans here where I am in San Carlos, have seen ridership recoveries in the 70, 75, 80% of pre-pandemic levels. Commuter rail, a little bit trickier just because of the nature of our core market, but I've been glad to see us continuing to make that steady climb back, as well as having the benefit of Measure RR 1/8 sales tax funds from our 3 counties, which has really helped keep us whole, keep us growing, and really allowing us to have the conversations like we've been having with TAMC. So again, dropping a little bit down from 50,000 feet to call it 25,000 feet, the Gilroy Salinas extension concept. So like so many good things in life, it is not a new concept, but we are giving it new energy, new life. The Southern Pacific provided service, the Del Monte between Monterey and San Jose via Castroville and Watsonville for almost a century. And then, of course, the Coast Daylight served Salinas until 1974, and the Coast Starlight, Amtrak's long-haul West Coast service, has served Salinas ever since. But the Gilroy Salinas commuter extension has been considered in a variety of previous studies, probably most importantly, the 2018 California State Rail Plan, as well as Caltrain's own business plan, which was really looks more like a strategic plan. We called it a business plan. This was a really major effort to take a look at where does Caltrain want to be by 2040? What kind of agency do we want to be? What kind of rail operator do we want to be? And this was a process that began before the pandemic and continued through the pandemic and had some of its assumptions updated then. But the 2040 service vision that's contained in the business plan does include the Salinas extension in Monterey County. And then, of course, Monterey Bay Area Network Integration Study and a lot of the good work that Executive Director Muck and Christina and staff have been doing for TAMC related to commuter rail extension into York County. So in 2020, Caltrain and TAMC partnered on a Gilroy Salinas feasibility study, which further explored the idea of extending service from our current Caltrain terminus in Gilroy into Monterey County. This was a much deeper look into how this would work operationally, what schedules might look like, that kind of thing. And that study was predicated on 4 really critical principles from the Caltrain perspective, certainly, and from our board's perspective, which is the service extension must be cost neutral for Caltrain. And I'm sure that TAMC board members, members of the public, and other policymakers can appreciate this. Because our service area is San Francisco, San Mateo County, and Santa Clara County, we need to be mindful of the fact that those contributing counties and contributing agencies are most focused on having their local dollars go into those local services. But I think that there is a great interest in becoming a still longer commuter rail corridor. No changes to Caltrain mainline service as a result of an extension to Salinas. Monterey County, as well as the state, would assume risks and liabilities for the service extension, and the service extension could make no changes to the Caltrain or JPB governance structure. And by that, I mean the 3 representatives from each of the 3 counties. So in the past couple of months, I've been working with TAMC staff and working internally here on the Caltrain side to progress these talks still further. And TAMC executive staff provided a letter to Caltrain, which I included in last month's Caltrain board packet, requesting the development of a memorandum of understanding to advance the Salinas service extension project further. Our next steps are going to include continued staff level evaluation of schedules, budget, potential ridership, as well as separately, and I do want to be clear about this, separately, Caltrain is working on securing funding for some zero emission rail vehicles for our services south of San Jose. Right now, that would be San Jose to Gilroy, but I think that this has some really interesting implications for any future service down to Salinas. And you've probably heard about the Caltrain electrification project. In fact, we had a big celebration in San Francisco over the weekend where 2 of our 4 electric Stadler rail vehicles were on display. Well, that electrification runs from San Francisco to San Jose, but we want to make sure that our services south of the electrified portion of the line still have zero emission vehicles, both for the customers, but also the adjacent communities on that part of the line. And so we are pursuing state funding and other funding for that. And I know that there is a lot of interest on the part of the state to not only fund zero emission vehicles, but also a lot of interest in connecting our 2 regions. Otherwise, and I said that these 2 things were unrelated from continuing the work on the Salinas extension, diesel equipment would be used south of Gilroy for any future service. And then working with your staff on the MOU based on those 4 principles that I had outlined previously. In fact, I've got a meeting this week, and we'll have more meetings in the weeks to come with staff to really hash out what that MOU looks like and lock in a timeline to bring that to our respective boards. So in short, I would say I've really thoroughly enjoyed working with your executive director and with Christina and staff. We are excited to continue working together on this extension. And at the end of the day, Caltrain is in the business of moving people and connecting communities. And this is yet another opportunity to do so. Christina or Todd, I don't know if there's anything that I left out. Otherwise, I will stop sharing my screen, although you can see my contact information there, both for the board and for members of the public. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. Christina, anything I missed?
No, I think that was a very comprehensive and helpful overview of where Caltrain's extension of Salinas is today. in terms of our operating agreement discussions. The board also gets regular updates on where we are in the rest of the project development too. So that's not the subject of this presentation, but am here to answer any questions people might have about that as well.
Thank you, Christina. And Sam, thank you so much for your presentation. I think I'm not the only person who's really looking forward to seeing the long-term project come to fruition. It would really be right in line with our climate action plan, as well as just kind of a whole lot of fun.
Yes.
So thank you very much for that. I'll go to the board and ask for comments from the board. And I see Mary Kerr has her hand up.
Good morning. Thank you for the presentation. I agree with Chair Adams that this is exciting. Couple of points. I appreciated you mentioning the history. I work at the Naval Postgraduate School, and the train was instrumental to the economic development that happened at the Navy, or at the Navy School when it was the hotel, and then all of the resulting community impacts as well. So tied to that, I think with COVID, we have a lot more people that live down in Monterey than 3 years ago that commute. So I would love to see even more stronger partnerships with our region becoming a bigger part of your organization. I worked in Menlo Park for a while, living down here, and I looked at any and all kinds of transportation options. And I would have loved to have been able to get on a train and zip up to Menlo Park. And so I'm really hoping that we can do that and offer schedules that work, that are more flexible than they currently are. So thank you again. I'm really looking forward to seeing this come to fruition.
Thank you, Mayor Kerr. And now we'll go to Bill Sable from our airport.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Am I, people hearing me okay?
It's a little frail. Can you come in a little closer to your mic?
Well, okay. Thank you, Sam, for the presentation. I represent the airport in Monterey, and we're both in the business of moving people. I was kind of curious as to what's constraining your recovery on passenger boarding back up to pre-pandemic levels. I think you mentioned you were down at 32%. Is that going to improve or change in the future?
Thanks, Bill. Did you hear the question, Sam? And Sam, you're muted, unfortunately. There we
Sorry,
go.
the question, Bill, was about when we thought we would be back to our pre-pandemic ridership levels. I apologize. It was faint.
It was muffled.
Okay.
I believe.
Let me ask it again. What is constraining your ability to return to pre-pandemic levels for your boarding?
That's a great question. So the question was, what is constraining our ability to get back to our pre-pandemic levels? I would say that the greatest constraint at the moment is return to office policies. And commuter rail does a very different thing than bus heavy or even light rail heavy transit operations, where bus and light rail tends to have these shorter stop trips. The schedules are consistent more or less across the day. And while they probably are, I know for sure, because I've worked at a bus agency before, while you do have these big curves during the AM and PM peaks, you still have a lot more consistent use. You have a lot more transit dependent riders. You have a lot of service industry and students who are back in a big way. Samtrans, for instance, is probably at 75% of pre-pandemic ridership. But Caltrain, similar to BART, I believe similar to ACE, as well as Capital Corridor, is still hovering this 35–40% area. And a big part of that is just telework. And I think we all recognize that remote work is going to be a huge part of our future. I think hybrid work is what's really going to be a huge part of our future. And that's going to mean that we should, as people more companies, when we do surveying, more companies are going back to 3 days a week. It should mean that we start accelerating towards 60% or so pre-pandemic ridership numbers, but it's going to require more population growth and other reasons for people to get on the train to head back towards our pre-pandemic numbers, which we now think will be back probably in the 2030 range, hopefully sooner. But I think most of the commuter rail operators in the country are looking at an end of decade scenario for getting all the way back. I think that's the biggest thing. I really can't think of another major reason, because we have seen really good ridership recovery when we have Giants games, Warriors games, special events, weekends, which is always wonderful because we get a lot of first-time customers, especially families. And so I think a lot of people are ready to get back out there. But our bread and butter for 30 years of Caltrain and 100 plus years of the Southern Pacific Peninsula commute has been people going to work in the financial district in San Francisco.
Okay, thank you, Sam, for that good answer.
Thanks very much, Sam. And I see Mayor Potter has his hand raised.
Sam, I want to thank you for your presentation. I think it's wonderful that you took the time to come down and talk to us. I was wondering, is there any need for one of our representatives to come up and talk to your board just so they can get sort of a policy perspective on why we're so excited about this? I've been working on this project for almost 26 years now, and I can tell you I'm the most excited about this project. Really appreciate your taking the time to come down today or to participate today.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure, and I wish that I was physically down there. I am arranging through Christina to be down in Salinas to do some touring and seeing some of the good work that's gone on in the station area soon. But yes, board member, I think that the time will come in the probably the coming months to have Todd or Christina join me at a Caltrain board meeting, especially as we not only bring them up to speed on the TAMC perspective of this project. I've provided them a regular update from my perspective, but provide the TAMC perspective and then talk more about the MOU when we have that more fleshed out.
Good, I appreciate that. I'd be glad to attend if somebody else from the board could go. I'm maybe the chair. It'd be wonderful. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Potter. And I see Mayor Craig has her hand raised.
Yeah, I'm willing to arm wrestle Mayor Potter for his level of excitement because the city of Salinas is thrilled. And Sam, I know I spoke with you previously about this, but we're looking forward to your trip to Salinas, and please make sure that, well, I should just ask Christina to let me know when you come into town. We'd love to have you have lunch in downtown and really take a look at what we've done in the intermodal transportation area. So thank you.
Thank you. I'd like that.
Thanks very much, Kimberly. Are there any other questions from the board or comments? I'm seeing no hands raised. I'll take it out to the public and see if any member of the public. Oh, I see Supervisor Phillips has raised his hand.
Well, yeah, I think Potter should get the lead on it, though, since he was working on this when I was in high school, for God's sake. So he's been one of the big promoters of this from the get-go. So.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Okay. Thanks very much. So we'll take it out to the public and see if there's any member of the public who would like to comment on this particular item. I'm not seeing any hands raised. Are you, Eloise or Todd?
That's a negative, Chair.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, thank you. Thanks again, Sam, for your presentation, and Christina for bringing this home. It's wonderful.
Thank you very much, Chair.
Good. Look forward to seeing you when you're down here. And now let's continue forward, and we will go to item number 6. And excuse me. And I will turn it back to Christina. I see we've got Gus on the line. This is our legislative report.
Yes, we're going to start actually with our federal representatives this morning on our legislative presentation.
There's Jim. Okay.
Jim Davenport from Thorn Run Partners is here. I believe Paul Schlesinger was called off to another conflict. So Jim is going to be doing the entire presentation for Thorn Run Partners this morning. And we wanted to hear an update on the Inflation Reduction Act funding available that might be available for projects in our priority list, and any other update on federal legislative activities that Jim has for us this morning. Good morning, Jim.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Christina. Yeah, Paul was called away. He's stuck on a call. So I had planned to be here anyway. So you get to listen to me this morning. Appreciate you all taking the time. I thought what I'd first do is give you an update on the appropriations process as it pertains to your the US 101 Auxiliary Lane project. Congress is about to pass a continuing resolution. They should pass it by the end of the week. As you know, they never get the appropriations bills done on time. I've been doing this now 23 years, and I don't recall one time where they've passed all 12 bills before September 30th. So goes without saying that that's where we are again this year. They should pass the CR by the end of the week. And what they plan to do is give themselves until December 16th to finish up all decisions on appropriations. So the CR will run from October 1 through December 16th. Once they pass the CR, members of Congress are going to split and get out of town for the entire month of October and most of November. We've got a midterm election, so everybody wants to get out of DC and go home and campaign. Excuse me. So that's what they're going to do. So nobody's going to be here. None of the members of Congress will be here for about the next 6 weeks, which makes it safe for guys like me. No bad decisions will happen. So what does that mean for your project? We believe an omnibus appropriations bill will be completed probably before Christmas. They're going to have the next 2 months, two and a half months to wrap up spending decisions. And, you know, from what we gather at this point, they do want to get an omnibus done. Members don't like doing these long-term CRs, so they're going to want to get this bill done and passed. So hopefully, you know, by December 20th or so, we can call Todd and Christina and say the bill's done and your project has been signed into law. So that's what we're hopeful we're gonna hear. But stay tuned, and we'll keep you apprised on the appropriations process. Last month, Christina mentioned the Inflation Reduction Act. Last month, Congress did pass the reconciliation bill, which they titled the Inflation Reduction Act. The bill was primarily poised to address climate change. So most of the items in there are tax policy provisions that address climate change, as well as there's prescription drugs are covered as well. But there was a little bit of transportation policy. We were pleased to see that they included the Neighborhood Access and Equity Grant Program, which is very, very similar to the Reconnecting Communities pilot program that was in the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act last November. Todd has informed us that you all are going after a planning grant in the Reconnecting Communities program for the, Todd, what was it again? The Salinas, Reconnect Salinas?
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks for that clarification. So the good news about this new program is it pumps $3 billion into this new grant program that is available through FY 2026 for both additional planning and construction. And this is to basically remove or improve transportation facilities that have divided neighborhoods. So think of a interchange that is divided, or like a highway that's divided historically a neighborhood in half. This is to reconnect those communities back together. So it's great in that it's going to be more money. So if you strike out on your planning grant, you can go after this grant, which also has planning components. And if you get your planning grant, you can go after more money in this program for construction. So we were certainly pleased to see that. And I think the last thing I want to mention is the, which I don't know if we mentioned this on our last call, the electric vehicle charging competitive grants will be available for local governments in the near future. But what has happened recently is all of the states had to submit their plans, the state plans for the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure to Federal Highway Administration. And Federal Highway has now approved all state plans, including California's, for the state side of things. So California is going to get, I think it's just over 55 million a year for the next, what would be 5 years for the state plan. And I could share with you the state plan. There's some maps on there, and they talk about various corridors of where they want to put EV infrastructure. So you could look at that. But on the flip side, if you're looking to do specific EV infrastructure in your area, you can apply for the competitive portion, which will be out in the near future. So that's really what I wanted to cover this morning. I think I'll stop there and see if you've got any questions.
Thanks, Jim. I'll see if there are other members of the board who have questions. I have one. I've been hearing just kind of, I don't know, just chat about a lack of interest in moving forward with a massive electric vehicle charging plan because the technology is changing. And it may well be that, in a matter of, a couple of years, there will be something that's brand new and we will have invested a lot of money in the current technology. Have you heard anything about that at all? Is there any buzz? And maybe I'll ask Gus the same question when he's up.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm following. So are you saying something different than the EV charging plan that the states are pursuing? Like you're concerned that we might put all the money into it and then something else comes along?
Sort of, yeah. Yes.
Okay. Maybe Gus is hearing something from the state level. I think the concern, what I'm hearing right now is there are certain states, and California is not one of these states that I'm aware of, that are not excited about all the funding for EV infrastructure because they're saying that, hey, our citizens, and I'm just going to make up a state, I'm not sure, maybe North Dakota was one of those states. Our citizens don't want, they're not driving electric vehicles. So we don't really want to spend all this money in this area. I am hearing that side of things. There are other parties, and I think some of the mayors in California, I'll have to find a letter, that are actually interested in going a bit further. There is a movement to electrify roads in certain areas so that your vehicle can actually charge as it drives. The problem is the policy to put those types of roads on the national highway system or that infrastructure doesn't exist right now. So DOT actually has to create a waiver to allow that type of infrastructure to exist on the national highway system. So then there's that side, but I don't know of anyone that's, besides the states I'm aware of that, would rather take the money and widen a lane than to put in EV infrastructure. I think that's what I'm hearing.
Thank you for that. Are there any, Chaps has his hand up.
Yes, thank you. And I appreciate the summary that was provided with the agenda. Couple of quick questions. The clean heavy duty vehicle, there was a 1 billion kind of allocation there.
Yeah.
What is so I saw some examples of heavy duty. So the example that I was looking for wasn't there. So I'm going to ask you. So are fire trucks included? What is considered heavy duty?
Yeah, we're going to go back and double check on that. From the information we have, it's garbage trucks, beverage trucks, tow trucks, school buses. I think if Congress wanted to include fire trucks in there, they would have specifically said it. And from my take, they did not. So we will double check on that. But it's very easy for us to put in a question as well to EPA to see if that is something they're contemplating. And if not, it's something we could certainly discuss with them.
Okay, great. The other thing is just from how this plays out. Are the funds going to come into like an agency like CARB or like a Monterey Bay Air Resources District for administration and distribution, or is it at a different level? How does that work out?
And what are you talking about? The specific clean heavy duty vehicle
Yes.
program or
Oh, yeah.
other ones?
Yeah, let's focus on that for now. Yeah.
Okay, so I believe it's grant awards. It's going to be grant awards to states and local governments. I don't think it's a formula program, but we can double check on that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thanks very much for your question, council member. Are there any other questions for Jim and the federal presentation? Yes, Mayor Labar.
Thank you, Chair. Just to the extent of the EV charging systems, will they also include EV charging systems for airports and the emerging eVTOL technologies?
I'm pretty sure, I haven't looked at the state plan close enough to see where they're contemplating, but an airport is certainly an eligible entity to apply for the competitive program. Any local government entity could make application for that.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mayor. Are there any other questions from the board at this point? Questions or comments on this federal update? Okay, I'm not seeing any hands. We'll look to see if the public has any questions or comments. Any member of the public is interested in commenting, please raise your hand to let us know. We have a very sleepy public today. Okay, I'm seeing no hands raised. So thank you so much for your presentation. And Christina, do you want to go ahead and introduce Gus?
Yes, thank you, Jim, for being here this morning. And Gus Curry is our state legislative analyst with Curry Consulting in Sacramento, and he's going to provide an update on the state budget and bills of interest to the agency.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Good morning, Madam Chair, board members. Gus Corey, legislative advocate. Good to be with you this morning. Madam Chair, I'll just give a quick snapshot of kind of where we are status-wise with the legislative session. I want to be sure to answer your question, and then I'll go back and talk about some of the bills of consequence that we had prioritized for the year. So the legislature adjourned the two-year session on August 31st. Governor Newsom has until this Friday, September 30th, to sign or veto legislation. And then barring a special session that could be called by the governor for some extraordinary circumstance, the current class of legislators have completed their term for all intents and purposes. And the new class of legislators will be sworn in on December 5th to commence the new two-year session then. With respect to the electric vehicle charging investments, this is something that we've been incredibly mindful of here on the state level. Over the course of the last couple of years, we've had language in our legislative platform. It's something that Mayor Labar has mentioned, I think quite consistently in past executive committee meetings. And the Central Coast Coalition also has been very vocal about the need to decarbonize the transportation system. So what the legislature did in the state budget is they provided $10 billion over the course of the next 6 years to invest into zero emission vehicle infrastructure. That includes incentives for purchasing zero emission vehicles. It's for fleet conversion, for transit buses, for drayage trucks, for commercial trucks. There's a real push in order to have inland ports, particularly in the San Joaquin Valley. And they want that zero emission infrastructure there. So it's a pretty pronounced investment, and the Air Resources Board will be the administrator of most of these programs. And so we're waiting to see how the guideline development is going to roll out. We're keeping track of that. You know, given past comments by Supervisor Lopez, among others, you know, we've talked about how it's really people that live in disadvantaged communities that have to drive the furthest to get to work, to go to places of leisure, et cetera, educational opportunities. And so we really have to make it more of a value proposition for those people to turn in their inefficient gas combustion engine vehicles to convert to an electric vehicle for one. What has come up, and it was towards the end of session this year, was system reliability. So while we're looking at converting over to electric, there has been discussion. I think everybody here was aware of the conversation revolving around extending the operations of Diablo Canyon. It was the actual, the last bill that was taken up by the state legislature, SB 846, which extends the operations until 2030, and the state's putting money there. So we're not quite ready to walk away from nuclear, especially since about 4 million people rely on Diablo Canyon, and you kind of need that bridge in order to fortify or expand the existing infrastructure before we can truly rely upon the electrical grid to get people away from the pump. I will say that this was something that we've been incredibly mindful of going back 5 years ago when Senate Bill 1 was being contemplated. TAMC was pretty vocal along with our Central Coast partners and saying we shouldn't be doubling down on the gas tax. We should be looking at alternative funding sources. And so what we had pitched and what was essentially adopted in the in Senate Bill 1 was utilizing the vehicle registration fee as a funding source that's carbon neutral, et cetera. And so definitely have our sights on this one. I feel like we're ground zero with respect to, climate resiliency conversations, given, the mudslides that we seem to experience, the fires that we seem to experience on an annual basis, and how we're trying to facilitate goods movement and tourism. And we can't totally get people to get off of the highway and just hop onto a bus or a train. And so this is truly one of the best options we have, is to try to secure some resources to make electric vehicle conversion more of a reality for our constituents and others in the region. And then just a couple other, I won't go through the whole bill list, and we're going to get into the 2023 state legislative program later with the exec committee, and we'll present that to you and working with Christina and members of the committee. But this year, just on the Brown Act, there's been a lot of confusion. There was a bill that the governor had just signed. It's AB 2449. It's on your matrix. You've been operating under the allowances made under AB 361, which is operative until January 1 of 2024. And it's, we're still operating under a state of emergency. The governor has not lifted that, which allows you all to meet virtually. What 2449 does is it pertains really to individual circumstances by board members. So you still have to meet in a singular physical location. It doesn't, you don't have to have a state of emergency to trigger the ability for some board members to meet virtually. But you have to have at least a quorum of the board meet in a singular physical location. And then for those that cannot meet in person, as long as you're providing a telephonic or video option for the public, you can meet remotely without disclosing your location. But you can only do it for 20% of the annual board meetings, or no more than 3 consecutive months in a row. If you have someone that's in the room with you that's 18 years or older, you have to disclose who that person is in the room. If it's a medical emergency, you don't have to disclose that. And the board can still take action. But on the agenda, you're supposed to disclose in 20 words or less why that person can't attend the meeting. So it's a little bit more onerous than what we were hoping for, given that we've been operating in a virtual fashion. And I think most others would argue that it's actually opened up more opportunities for public participation. But there was a more conservative approach that the legislature had enacted for you to make some allowances to meet virtually without totally getting away from the physical traditional opportunities to meet and conduct your business. The other main issue for this year, and I've been talking about this at virtually every presentation, is how we're able to continue to partner with the state to leverage our Measure X dollars and acquire state resources of funding. The governor has been pretty assertive and vocal about trying to wean our dependence on petroleum, trying to encourage mode shift and drive down greenhouse gas emissions. You heard from this morning's great presentation from Caltrain. We're throwing the kitchen sink at every opportunity that we can to provide more multimodal options for our community. We talk vociferously, and Mayor Potter can attest to this through the Coast Rail Coordinating Council about cap corridor extensions and other things to make passenger rail service a real option along the Central Coast, where the state's really been fixated on high-speed rail, which doesn't really help us out too much. But yet we seemingly get penalized because of our lack of density, the amount of disadvantaged communities that we have, the composition of our economy, which is ag-based, tourism-based. So we've had to play a lot of defense this year, and thankfully, we were able to successfully advocate for the defeat of a couple of bills. One was authored by the chair of the Assembly Transportation Committee, Laura Friedman, AB 2237. That would have allowed the state to basically go into your Measure X expenditure plan and cherry pick projects that they did not think were CAPTI compliant and prevent you, even though you've made a promise to the voters, prevent you from delivering on those projects. And so anything, say, like on State Route 156 or 68 or the 101 south of Salinas project, if in their estimation it would increase vehicle miles traveled, then you would be precluded. And we were thankful, working very closely with the Self-Help Counties Coalition in particular, that we were able to defeat that bill. There was another bill, AB 1778, which would have precluded you from delivering any highway project if there was a census tract of 5,000 people or more along the route, which again doesn't make sense, particularly in areas that don't have robust transit service where that's a real option for people to ditch their vehicles. So that one also went by the wayside. We're waiting on the governor to act on one more bill. It's AB 2438. And this would basically throw in consideration of, it would codify the governor's climate action plan for transportation infrastructure, which again is focused on compelling mode shift, not really making any highway improvements outside of routine maintenance, which again would compromise what we're trying to accomplish with Measure X and receiving any kind of federal dollars to make improvements to our existing infrastructure. And that one is still pending on his desk. And so we're keeping an eye on that one. But it's been a pretty active year. Your small but mighty staff has been working feverishly this year. It's just been a real pleasure. We've done a lot of work behind the scenes just to at least maintain status quo and try to compel the administration to have a more productive, sincere conversation with us about how we can mutually arrive at shared goals of improving air quality, increasing mobility, while still addressing other priorities such as goods movement, tourism, etc. So, Madam Chair, I'll stop right there. I know I said a lot, but it's been an active year. I'm happy to take any questions or comments that you or board members may have.
Thank you very much, Gus. And I see a hand is already up, so we'll go to Bill Sabo.
Okay, thank you, Chair Adams. I replugged myself. Can you hear me better now?
Yes, there's a bit of an echo, but you're much better now.
All right. Thank you, Gus, for that presentation. It was like drinking out of a fire hose to listen to you. At the airport, we're doing strategic planning that includes more accommodations for electric vehicle takeoffs and landings, aircraft. And one of our concerns here is if we invest in infrastructure for those new aircraft that are coming, is the grid going to be capable of providing charging capabilities? Because this is going to be a major investment for us. Do you hear any discussion in the legislature about assuring that there is PG&Es capable, or other electric companies are capable of providing the electricity through the grid to accommodate all this electric vehicle planning?
I think, Madam Chair, if I may, so Mr. Sabo, it's this is what the governor was trying to kind of convey towards the end of session is we need to rely on things like nuclear while the rest of the system is able to catch up, while we can invest more to get the grid up to spec where it's a smoother transition. So I do expect maybe something, we'll see, notwithstanding what state resources look like for the upcoming budget year, and the forecast is not as rosy as what we've been enjoying over the last 2 years, but it's very possible that the governor could have some kind of a proposal in the upcoming fiscal year 23-24 state budget.
Thank you, Gus.
Thank you, Bill and Gus. Are there other questions? Yes, Supervisor Alejo.
I just wanted Gus to maybe also explain the big announcement that came from the California Air Resources Board, I believe at the end of July, early August, regarding the banning of gas-powered vehicles and light trucks starting in 2035, which is in 13 years, which really puts a different perspective on the need for electric vehicle infrastructure with such a big change happening in our state.
Yes, so good morning, Supervisor. So the ARB action is actually predicated upon the governor's executive order. So you may recall that in September of 2019, part 1 of the executive order was we need to use existing resources to try to compel mode shift. The second executive order, which came out in September, it's N7920 in September of 2020, was the governor doesn't want the sale of gas-powered engines, vehicles starting in 2035. And so we have to get away from that fleet entirely. And so that's what the ARB's action was. It was basically carrying out the governor's desire through the executive order that was issued a couple years ago.
Thank you, Gus.
Thank you. Todd, your hand is up.
Thank you. Quite a few questions about electric vehicle charging. I just wanted to note that we've been working with AMBAG and Santa Barbara and San Luis Obispo and the rest of the Central Coast Coalition on this issue. And we are scheduled to have a presentation in our October meeting on the Central Coast EV charging plan. So we'll have more opportunity next month to talk about EV charging. And this plan is focused on regional trips, but there's a lot to discuss. So I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, thank you, Todd. And just for our group here, our board, I would just add that our Board of Supervisors passed a new ordinance that starting next year, we're transitioning all our county fleet to electric, with a few exceptions for some of these emergency vehicles. But otherwise, we're moving in that direction, and really with our new sustainability manager, trying to see where we could be helpful in carrying out more EV charging projects throughout the county, especially in areas in the county where there continues to be a need for that. So, and then perhaps even looking at as a possibility on new housing construction, putting in infrastructure, because it's much cheaper putting infrastructure in, the wiring in when it's being constructed rather than doing it later, which will be much more expensive. But for like those multi-unit apartment complexes, I think that needs to be part of the future planning of how housing gets built in Monterey County.
Thank you, Supervisor. Next, we have Supervisor Chris Lopez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just going to suggest that maybe at a future meeting, we invite somebody from PG&E here to share with us their vision on EVs. I know that while we see it as a potential detriment to their infrastructure, they happen to see it as a benefit. They're looking at pushing OTA, over-the-air updates to vehicles from 2013 and newer that have electric batteries. That you can change the way that they charge through manipulation on the grid somehow. So it'd be fun to hear from them exactly how they see the vehicles as extra battery storage available when connected to the network during those critical periods as necessary. I've heard their CEO talk about that recently up in Sacramento, and I think it'd be fun to invite somebody here to share with this group how they view EVs and the potential impacts on their infrastructure. Just a suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. That's a great idea. We can look at that, Todd. Good. All right. I'm not seeing any other hands raised. Are there others who wish to comment or ask questions for Gus or Jim on the legislative updates? Seeing none, I'm going to take it out to the public and seeing if there's any member of the public who would like to comment on this item this morning. Okay, seeing no one coming forward, I'll just give a big thanks to you, Gus, and Christina specifically for all of the work that you do to ensure that we stay up to the minute, and more than that, that we look to the future. So thank you so much for that, and we will close item number 6, unless there are final comments. Okay, great. We'll close item number 6 and move forward now with receiving the reports from the transportation providers. And the first one will be a report from Caltrans, and I think it may be Orchid Monroy Ochoa who will be making the report.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. My name is Orchid Monroy Ochoa, and I'm the branch chief for regional planning and local development review here at District 5. As mentioned in the meeting, the grant season is around the corner. I just want to kind of give you a timeline for the grants that are administered through Caltrans of what to expect in the next 3 months. So grant categories range from sustainable community grants to climate adaptation planning grants and strategic partnership grants. In the month of October, headquarters is planning to revise the draft grant application guide, and they'll give 30-day for comment period. After that is closed, there will be 2 virtual workshops in the month of November. So partners and locals can attend and answer any questions that they may have concerning the guidelines or the program in general. In December, they plan to release the final grant application guide, and there's going to be a call for grants. And hopefully the application due date is sometime in January, so we could skip the holidays and not have them due in December around holidays. So it's looking like around January. So I will put in the chat box a link to our website for more information. If you have any questions, please let me know. The other announcement that I have has been touched a little bit with Jim Davenport's presentation. California has had the green light to start using federal infrastructure funding to expand electric vehicle charging stations along the state interstates and highways, following the recent federal approval of joint plan by Caltrans and the California Energy Commission. So we will be working on implementing the National Electric Vehicle Program, which focuses on construction of fast charging stations near our interstates and highways. So I will be placing also a link to more information on that in the chat. And that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Monroy Ochoa. Are there any questions? Supervisor Lopez.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple quick comments, Orchid, for Caltrans. I know down in South County, we have a lot of major construction going on, especially as you enter King City. There were 2 clear requests that I received yesterday. I've received them several times and forwarded them, but I'm going to do it one more time. At the exit for Pie Road, which is the only way into Pine Canyon if you're coming from the north headed south, there's a request for additional signage that is the exit. There's been a lot of near accidents there as that construction has pushed everybody onto that road without very much signage. And the other clear request from the community is just a little more heads up on some of those changes. I know lately we've been putting out notice. I think the last one was 48 hours after the change took effect. So just a little more communication on that would be helpful, but thank you for your help thus far.
Thank you,
I will
Supervisor.
communicate that.
Great. Any other questions on this item? Okay, thank you. And now we'll go to Bill Sabo.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and I always appreciate this opportunity to do a little side hustle for the airport. Well, I'm really pleased to report that the airport's doing well, and our employments are like 98% of pre-pandemic levels, and that's kind of significant for us because we noticed that we have an 88% load factor. That means 88% of the seats that fly out of Monterey are filled, and that's a good thing for us. And so we're only limited here by the number of seats that the airlines can provide, and they're limited by a pilot shortage. So if you can get book a seat, do it out of Monterey. And we're encouraged that the airlines are working hard to try to provide more airplanes into and out of the Monterey airport. And the other interesting fact that I'd like to report is that in the past, we've been really criticized for having cancellations out of Monterey. Our cancellation rate is almost near zero out of Monterey. And delays are almost zero as well out of Monterey. Inbound, we can't control that out of Dallas, Fort Worth, and other cities, but out of Monterey, if you're going somewhere, you're going to pretty much leave on time. And we've started discussions with a Canadian airline who has expressed some interest in bringing Canadians to Monterey in a tourism capacity. That's still a ways away. We have to have immigration capability here. I mean, customs and immigration capability here. But at least we're discussing that, and we look as that a good potential source of new visitors to Monterey. We are we just passed yesterday a motion to select an architect for a new $10 million fire station at the airport. The most discussion we had on it was what color to make the fire station, but in all seriousness, this is going to be providing us with rather substantial upgraded capability at the airport for emergency disaster responses. And we have a new ground transportation provider called Turo, and this might be something all of you are maybe a little interested in. It's a new way of renting a car, and that is like peer-to-peer car sharing. It's called Turo, and these are private individuals that will rent their car to you for a specified number of days, and it's available all online. And that's going to be an experiment for us, but it seems to be a way to reduce the cost of renting a vehicle. People, owners of vehicles through this Turo system will leave their car at the airport, and when you're ready, when you come into the airport, you pick up the car and then drop it off at the end. So some good things are happening in the airport, and fly Monterey. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bill. Any comments or questions? Okay, great. Seeing none, I'll see if there's any member of the public comments or questions. Nothing. So now we will go to Monterey Salinas Transit. And I did not see Carl here. Is there anyone from Monterey Salinas Transit that would be able to make a report this morning?
That's a negative, Chair. I didn't see anyone.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And then we have the Monterey Bay Air Resources District. Is Richard with us this morning? I didn't see him. Or anyone that could make
That's a negative, Chair. I did not see him.
Okay, great. I see Christina's hand is raised. Christina Medina Dirksen.
Thank you. I did have a question for the airport district. Is it too late to go back?
Yes. No, it's not too late. Go ahead.
Okay. As you're talking international travel, most recently there was a delegation from Oaxaca that came to Seaside to establish tourism and other kind of marketing back and forth links. It's a sister city agreement. Has there been any, was the airport district involved in any of that? Did you know about it? And if you're looking at Canada, might Mexico be in the cards, specifically because we have such a large population from the state of Oaxaca in our ranks of our employment force, as well as our residents?
Yes, it has been a subject of discussion for us, and because we don't have local immigration and customs capability here, which we're working on trying to get, we haven't spent a lot of time developing that. Now, the Canada, the Canadian airline approached us about doing this sort of thing, and we see a potential way to serve our citizens in the region here to Mexico, and it all is dependent upon whether or not we can get customs and immigration capability here. That's a very expensive capability, but we want to do it. And so I hear what you're saying, and we want to be able to provide that service. As always, everything that we do at this airport here is dependent upon whether people will use it, as opposed to getting on Highway 101 and going to San Jose or San Francisco. So we need some assurances that that will be a utilized service. And no, I was not aware of the meetings that you referred to. I hope that answers the question.
I'd love to talk more about that offline at some point, but yes, thank you.
I'd be glad to do that.
Great. Thank you both. Any other questions or comments? Okay, let's go ahead and close item 7 and move down to item 8, which are reports on meetings attended by board members at transportation agency expense as required by state law. Anybody been going any place flagging our flag?
We're not aware of anyone at our expense.
Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, I'm seeing no hands raised about that. And we will move on to the meat of our meeting, which is the executive director's report. I'll turn it over to you, Todd.
Thank you, Chair Adams. Just a couple quick items. One, as part of our Salinas Valley Safe Routes to School program, with these programs, one of the things we do are called pop-ups, which are temporary demonstrations of safety improvements that can be made along the roadway. And down in Greenfield, there is currently a pop-up in place along 2nd Street near the intersections of Apple, Oak, and Elm Avenues. And that will be in place until October 14th. So if you have an opportunity and you're going by Greenfield, stop by and check it out. There's also an online survey that you can take after you've investigated it. I looked at it last week, and it's always nice to see what relatively small modifications you can make to a street to make them safer for the students as they're walking and traveling to school. So this is a great example of something you can do. Starting October 1st and the whole month of October is our fall 2022 Move It Challenge. So it's an opportunity for people to log their active transportation trips and earn prizes. And you can learn more about that on TAMC's website. And then finally, if you could, the executive director evaluations are due this Friday. And if you haven't sent them in yet, please send them directly to Chair Adams. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Todd. Any comments or questions on Todd's report? Any member of the public? Okay, thank you very much. And now I will see if there are any announcements or comments from transportation agency members that matter, of any matters that they'd like to see on future transportation agency agendas. Yes, Ms. Kerr.
I don't have anything that I'd like to add to a future agenda, but I do want to acknowledge our very own Mike Zeller and Lindsay Van Paris, one of the engineers on the FORTAG project contract. They gave another presentation at our council meeting last night. They were able to answer all and sometimes very contentious questions intelligently and thoughtfully, highlighting the care that is being given to environmental safety and resident impacts. not everybody walked away happy, but we all know the ongoing communication continues to be critical as our segment moves forward. It's no surprise we have a great team on this project, and I just want to say thank you.
Thank you, Allison. It's very thoughtful. Absolutely. Okay, any other comments or announcements from members of the board and committees? Okay, thank you. And just as a final, please do ensure that you're sending your evaluations in for Todd. I appreciate that. As he indicated, September 30th is the deadline. So it's right around the corner and your participation is encouraged. Anything else for the good of the order? Okay, our next meeting will be a regular meeting. Will be Wednesday, October 26th at 9 o'clock. And we will continue to be doing our kind of virtual meeting until otherwise informed. All right, thank you all. Have a great rest of your week. And it's almost October. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.